Okay. So, hi everybody. I know a few of you are just logging on to today's webinar, so I'll give you just a few minutes to go ahead and do that. And Rich can wave to you like logging on. So I just want to do a little bit of introduction, and then I will give the screen floor to Rich. But my name.
3 to 4.
So hello, thank you for joining the Foundation for Animal Care and Education's webinar on pet photography presented by Rich Soublet of Rich Soublet Photography. That's him. My name is Annie Peterson, and I'm the Education Manager for the FACE Foundation, and I will moderate today's webinar. The FACE Foundation is a nonprofit organization that helps to prevent economic euthanasia in our community due to financial limitations of their pet parents. Before we get started, I just wanted to know a few things for those of you who may or may not be very familiar with Zoom. So all of you are muted to avoid background noise, and the camera feature is turned off so we can focus all of our attention on Rich. You will have an opportunity to ask questions throughout the presentation by typing them in using the chat feature. However, Rich has very kindly said that he can answer questions throughout the presentation, so feel free to type in those questions whenever you want, and he can go ahead and get to those. But whatever he doesn't get to during the presentation, we'll go over those at the end. When typing your question into chat, you will have two options. One will say everyone, and the other will just have my name. So if you want it to be anonymous, just choose my name and it'll just come to me. Rich Soublet is a professional photographer and owner of Rich Soublet Photography. Rich is also a volunteer photographer with the FACE Foundation, and I just found out yesterday he's been our volunteer here for 8 years, so go Rich. And he has years of experience in getting great photos of people and pets. So thank you, Rich, for being here with us today, and the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Annie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I've got photos for you guys to look at. What sort of photographer would I be if I didn't? And if you can go ahead and give me power. There we go. I have power. I've got you got the touch. I may or may not randomly break into song for you guys. Sorry, that's just sort of the way that it goes. So yeah, this is me. And that wasn't supposed to advance yet, but it did. We'll go back. There we go. Let's make sure everything's all set up just right. Yeah, so like Annie said, I've been volunteering for FACE for the past 8 years. I've been a professional photographer full-time since 2010, a hobby photographer for my entire life. I first picked up a camera when I was 8 years old, which means I have to give a major shout out and thank you to my mom and dad, Richard and Kathleen Soublet, whose anniversary is tomorrow. Not that you guys know them and can contact them and say happy anniversary, but I'll be doing that because I'm a good son. I went to school to be an engineer, and I decided that I wanted to be an artist, and my parents were incredibly patient with me in that transition. So I always thank them before I do anything like this, just so that they know that I really, really appreciate their patience and their time and giving me that flexibility in order to, follow my dream, which is what we all hope to be able to do and hope to get from our parents, right? I've been doing photography, like I said, for an incredibly long time. I was 7 or 8 years old the first time I picked up or touched a camera. It was a camera that my dad used to have. He used to take photos of drag races in the 70s, which was a hobby that I had no idea. Like, it came totally out of left field. And I really got into it. I would play with it. I'd pick it up, there'd be no batteries. It would have no lens on it, just much like this one does right now. And I would play with the buttons and the knobs. And eventually my mom went out and got me a camera that I could use for myself. And it is this exact camera. I found a stock photo of it. It's this Fisher-Price camera that you used to stick a giant flash tube on top of. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for always supporting me and for, I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you guys. So thank you very much. I also have to give a very special thank you to the dog that you see in this wall of photos is my dog Argo, who very sadly left us last year. He was a few days shy of 12 and gave me that many years of dog photography experience. He was quite the little model, as you can see here. Always had endless patience, would sit for photos, would jump for photos, would run for photos. Sometimes even the more candid ones he would put up with, like the one you see in the upper right-hand corner of him laying down with his paws out. I love that one. It's my favorite photos. So major shout out to that dog, the best dog, my dog Argo. Much, much love. I'm going to go through and I'm going to give you guys what I think are the most essential tips for getting photos of your pets. I want to preface all of these by saying that none of these should be considered rules. Maybe one or two of them can be considered rules, but for the vast majority of the slides that you're about to see, these are all suggestions, and these are all based off of the aesthetic that I appreciate, things that I like to see in photography. You may disagree with them, and that is fine. That is totally fine. I encourage everyone always to have their own feelings and thoughts when it comes to any type of art, but especially to photography. So here we go, right? Here we go. Tip number one, and this one's probably the most important one for me. I'm going to say that 7 more times at least, that this is the most important one. But for me, you've got to get on their level. You have to get down on the ground. And the same thing goes for when you're photographing children. So if you have kids at home, you have to get on their level if you want to get a good shot. You can see these are also my animals, my wife's animals. This is my cat Chloe in the top left. The bottom left are 3 rats, which we just got last week. All female, named for famous ladies, Ruth, Amelia, and Maya. You can figure out who each of those ladies are at your own volition. On the bottom right and also on the top right are our rabbits, Cora and Gandalf. And really take a second and look at the photos. The difference between the photos of Gandalf, like I'm right on their level in the bottom right photo, and I'm even lower, like I'm flat on the ground in the top right one, and Gandalf looks enormous. Like you really want to be close up to your pets as much as possible when you're doing photos. Like if you want to have something really, really nice that has impact, and you'll hear me say that 24 more times, that's an arbitrary number. You'll hear me say that a lot more times throughout this webinar, but photos that have impact are the kind of photos that you keep, that you come back to, that you look at over and over again. The bottom left photo of the rats is brand spanking new, but I'm a big fan of it. The other ones I took, years ago, and I knew right off the top of my head which ones I wanted to put here on this page because they stick out in my mind. And that's what you really want with any photo, but especially with photos of your pets and, your other loved ones too. Tip number 2. Fill the frame with your subject. I see a lot of pet photos that people take at home, and you'll have, a dog in the middle and all of this stuff, up here on the edge, and the dog will be this big in the picture, and there's all of this noise going on around them. Really get in close, fill up the frame. Look at the difference between these 2 photos of Argo, right? You've got sort of a top-down view, which breaks my previous rule, right? So you're above him, we're looking down on him, so we don't have that same sort of perspective, and the perspective being from another animal's perspective, which is really cool and interesting to me. But we also have all of this extra space in the photo that we don't really need. Most of it's, it's more distracting than it is helping the image that we're looking at. If we have a rant, like we don't need to see the wall, and we don't need to see like so much of the bed and so much of the sheets and stuff there. So like really getting close. So these photos were taken back to back, right? So after I took the first one, I got down on the ground, I got on his level, right? I did the first part, and I made sure that he takes up the majority of the frame. Is there room around him? Yeah, because you often want to see, the setting that that a subject is in, or that in this case, I'm gonna say animals because I photograph all kinds of stuff, right? But we're just gonna say animals for the sake of today, because that's what you guys are here for, right? The part of the image that the animal is in should dominate the image, right? So his cute little face there takes up the majority of the photograph, and that's what you want. I'm gonna say because I'm brilliant. Take that word out of my mouth. This last picture, the picture on the right here, segues beautifully right into my next slide, because you'll notice that he's not just, it's not just a blank expression. It's not just him sitting there on the floor. Like he's doing something kind of cute. He does that thing where if you get a dog's attention, but you're looking straight at them, like the eyes go way, way up. I'm pretty sure Lindsay, my wife, is standing up over my shoulder on this one. And that is purposely direct the attention of your animals when you're taking photos, right? Now, a lot of the time that'll mean that you want them to be looking at the camera, which is fine. Like obviously take photos like that, but there's so many fun, cute, cool, interesting things that you can do with photography, and just having like straight on photos all of the time, like it's great to do that, but play around a little bit, like get the eyes going this way in this direction, get them going this way in that direction, have something for them to follow, something that they're interested in. What makes it easier to direct the dog's attention is to have something that they're really, really excited about. Many moons ago, I used to be a dog trainer myself, and I would always tell my students that if you want to get a dog's attention, you have to be the most exciting thing in the room, right? So when you're out at a park and you're trying to get some snaps of your animal or your dog on your cell phone, like you've really got to get their attention, because there's so much other stuff going on. There's dogs running around, like there's tennis balls flying left and right. So you have to be more interesting than everything else around you to get their attention, to direct their attention to you, right? Sometimes, and I do this often when I'm doing shoots in studio, I'll have either an assistant or a pet parent, as I like to call them, stand directly behind me, right? So that the dog will be looking sort of close to where the camera lens is. Pre-coronavirus, I would have people get literally directly behind me, like as close as possible, if I wanted to get like a good straight on shot. I have to introduce this dog in these photos because this is my friend John's dog. This is Charlie. He just turned 10. He's a really, really sweet boy. And to direct Charlie's attention, I used his favorite toy, which was his ball, which brings me to my next point: bribe them. Right? It's so much easier to get a pet's attention if you have something that you know that they love. Hopefully it's just you and that's enough. And you can just stand there with your camera pointed at them and you can get, the images that you want. But having a ball, keys is a great one. Keys works for humans and pets alike. I've used it for, groups of adults with a dog. And I make the joke, this is more for you guys than it is for the dog. And then they all laugh. And it's a great picture of the dog looking right at me and them all laughing behind them. But yeah, have something that's an attention grabber. Hopefully, again, you're enough for that. But keys, treats are always good, which brings me to the photo on the right here. Peanut butter is a great way to hold the dog's attention if they know that you have that. I just saw the question popped up, and I'll stop here for a second and I'll say, any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the Q&A, because I will immediately stop everything to answer that question. Michael, thank you for asking that. Any tips for taking pictures of black dogs? I have a whole thing about that later on in the presentation. I have a whole slide for that. So don't you worry, I will get there. Thank you though. Thank you. Moving right along. Take more photos than you think you need, okay? Take more than you think you need, because no offense, you're not a professional, right? The odds of you being able to get the shot that you want that one time are pretty low. And even for me, like I take a ton of images, and only the great ones survive. This is Stella, and some of you may or may not have seen her before. Stella is Instagram famous now. Her Instagram is Hunger for Words, but she was our neighbor for a long time. She's our neighbor's dog, and we dog sat for them not too long ago. So naturally, I got Stella in front of the lights and we took some photos. But you take a bunch. Take too many. Take too many. When you get to the point, if you're down there taking pictures of your animal and you're like, man, I've taken way too many of these, that's when you can stop, right? But don't stop before that. And spend your time later on going through each of the images and really finding the ones that you like. That's how you get to keep and have and print and hang those really, really great photos. It's animals are unpredictable. They're going to move around. They're going to blink. They're going to make weird faces. And I know as you look through these, like the top far right one, she's making like a weird little winky face. Like they're not all going to be perfect, right? Not every shot's going to be a winner. Hopefully, with all the tips that you have here today, you'll narrow the amount that you need, or the sort of the space in between great shots and the ones that you'd rather forget about. But for now, take a bunch, take a ton. Storage is cheap and getting cheaper and cheaper every day, right? So don't skimp on the amount of photos that you take of your animals. And I see we got another question. I'll go ahead and I'll have a look at that. What I suggest about red eye? My dog is 12 and mostly blind, so his eyes are always dilated. They show up that hollow green. I like when he looks at me, but then the photo looks weird. There is no such thing as too many. Thank you very much, right? That you made my point for me. Thank you, Shelly. I'll stop here because you're right. I didn't put anything about red eye in here, but I will talk about that. The light source that you're using to photograph an animal is very, very important in determining whether or not red eye is even going to happen. It has less to do with them being like super dilated or even blind. These were taken, you know, you can see Stella's eyes here are fairly dilated, but it's taken with indirect light. The light isn't bouncing directly into her eye, so it's not bouncing directly back at the camera, right? So when you take a photo of your dog or your cat, or really most animals that have these kind of eyes, if light is going directly into the eye, it's going to come directly back at you, and you're going to get that weird sort of green or red discoloration. So I would recommend turning the flash off. If it's a directional flash, don't use it. Try and use whatever, either if you have available light, like obviously if it's at night and you're using a cell phone, that's gonna be a little bit trickier. But yeah, avoid using a flash that is very close to or on top of your camera's lens like this, because you're gonna get the red eye every single time. That said, there are a slew of editing programs out there that can one-click remove red eye. And most of them are good enough now that they can distinguish between human eyes and animal eyes. And I was going to go into more apps and stuff later because I wanted to talk specifically about cell phones, because I know you guys are looking at these photos and thinking, these are all taken with professional lighting and a professional camera, so of course they're going to look fantastic. I have a whole page of nothing but cell phone photos. You can take fantastic photos on your cell phone, and I'm going to get to that, so don't you worry about that. But for now, just avoid direct flash. Avoid direct flash really in any circumstance. Nobody looks flattering. I'm generalizing. Very few people look flattering. Very few animals look like, you're not going to get a flattering image by doing direct flash, because the light's also very, very flat. Whenever light's coming straight at something like that, you're going to get that flat light effect, right? So don't use that onboard flash. I can't stress this enough. It's no good. It's really not. We'll talk more about light and like light directionality and light quality and all that stuff a little bit later on. So I'll get to that. But thank you again for asking that, Shelly. It's a very important question. I'm really glad that you brought that up. So yeah, take more images than you need, right? Just take a ton. With that in mind, you know, don't think that you're going to sit there for a minute and rapid fire photos and get the shot that you want. If you have something in mind, and I always recommend having something in mind, you can take good photos, you can take, you know, fun photos, you can take hobby photos off the cuff, candid, but doing something that you're going to remember, that you're really going to want to keep, that you're going to want to print, takes intent. Like you have to have an intention. You have to have not necessarily like a full plan. Like I'm not saying build up, you know, a whole set and get costumes and, you know, bring in lights and do all of that. I'm not saying all of that. I'm saying have an idea of what you want your final result to look like in your mind before you even start taking pictures, and it'll make it that much easier for you to get there. With animals, to get this, you need to have patience. You need a lot of patience, right? Because like I said, animals are unpredictable. Sometimes they're not going to want to be there. They're not going to want to sit still. You're going to get your camera out. You're going to get right in front of them. They're going to walk away, right? I'm sure it's happened to everyone who's sitting here thinking, every time I try and take a picture of my dog, he gets up and he walks away. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can help with that. I'll stop right now and talk about that because I didn't have a slide for this. But for those of you who have, if you've clicker trained your animal, and obviously you can do this with more than just dogs, but if I would highly recommend asking a trainer how to teach look at me or watch me, or there's a couple other words that people use for that. I like watch me because I think it's cute, but it's you take a treat, right? Point to your nose, hand it to the dog, say, watch me. And as soon as they make eye contact, give them the treat, right? And just repeat until every time you say that word, they can look directly at you. That'll help you take photos where they're looking right at you, if that's your goal. If you're after something a little bit more unique, like the image on the right, you're going to have to wait for it to happen, and you're going to have to be prepared. You're going to have to be ready. This is Gandalf, like I said, and the photo on the left is from the day that we got him. And I'll never forget this, the first time we did it. But when a rabbit yawns, they look like they look like a dragon. So every time they yawn, my wife and I would go, dragon, because he looks like a dragon. And as soon as it happened, I told Lindsay, it's like, I'm gonna get a picture of that because I love that. It looks so cartoonish and weird and fun. The picture on the right was taken 7 months later. Like the day we got him, I said, I want to have a picture that looks like this. And I had to wait 7 months before, one, I was prepared, and two, he was doing it when I was prepared, right? So you have to have patience. You got to be patient. Otherwise, it's just you're never going to get it. Take your time, wait, get the camera out, and just wait a bit. Let them do their thing. Call them to you, have them sit. If they get impatient, let them run away. If you're trying to get a photo of your cat, go to where they are, get on their level, right? Wait. Just wait. Take some time. Really set aside a good amount of time for this. And like with anything else that you're doing with your animal, I'll talk more about this later, but know when they've had enough for sure. But be patient. Yeah, be patient. I see that there's some other questions that are in the chat and not in the Q&A, so I'm going to address those. Tips for camera shy dogs that look away when phone camera comes out. Watch Me's great for that. I would say bring the phone camera out, wait, call them over for a different reason, right? Don't shove the camera phone right immediately in their face when they come to you. Wait for them to come, try and get them to sit, trying to get them to look at you, give them a treat while you're holding it, and just keep doing that. Repeat, 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 right? Dogs are repetition. Dogs learn really, really well through repetition. Don't try and take a picture. Don't try and take a picture yet. Just have you holding it here, just like this, and give them a treat when they're sitting in front of you. And just keep doing that. Do it over and over and over again. Yeah, Michael commented on the editing apps. Thank you, Michael, for that. I'll go down the chat. Yeah, Watch Me. Good. Thank you, Shelly. Yes, he is quite the little dragon. But guys, I can't stress this enough. Guys and girls, I'm trying to break myself of saying guys, and it's really, really difficult. Everyone in the room, be patient. That's how you get the shots that you really, really remember. All right, we're going to move on. Move on. Tell a story. And this one's one of those like, artsy fartsy, maybe more sort of esoteric concepts when it comes to an image. So I won't talk too long about this, but those photos that really, really stand out, and the ones that you remember, the ones that you recall, the ones they say, I really want to put this on my wall. I would wager, for those of you who do hang photos or do have albums or do have things that you just go back to and look at again, when you go and you look at those images, there's something behind it that you remember, right? Some specific story, or you've set it up in a way that it says something very, very specific to you. This was taken a few summers ago at a house that my wife and I used to live in. And again, of course, you're gonna see a lot of pictures of Argo because let me be real, there's just a ton of them. You're gonna see a lot of them in here today. But I wanted for weeks, the sunsets were looking really, really beautiful. And the timing didn't really line up for us to both be on a walk at the same time. So there was times where I'd left my camera at the studio I was working at, and I didn't have it on me, or I just didn't feel like having it on me. And then finally one day I said, all right, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a nice orange sunset today. And I really, really want a backlit photo of the two of them. So they walked on one side of the street. I walked on the other side of the street. And I really wanted to sort of capture this feeling, the feeling that I get when I see the two of them interact, that I got when I saw the two of them interact. When I saw her walk him, when I saw that, exchange, that the way that he just so purposely moves forward on a walk, and the way that she watches him when he moves, I really, really wanted to capture something just like that. So like I said in the last one, right, I had it already in my head. I already knew what I wanted to see. I just had to wait for it to happen. And then one day we got this beautiful sunset. They're walking on the other side of the street. I was ready and I got it. And I can't stress enough. You're going to get the great stuff when preparation meets opportunity. Because if the opportunity arises, like I said, there were a few days where we went on walks together and it was looking gorgeous like this. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have my camera on me. And this was before, I thought the camera phone was good enough to get a photo that I would want to keep. So be prepared and keep your eyes peeled. Looks like my neighborhood a little. Are you in San Diego? Yes, I'm in San Diego. This is the residential area of North Park. Maybe it is your neighborhood. Hopefully it is. That'd be really funny. Oh, it is. That's funny. Very funny, Shelly. All right, I'm going to move on. Moving right along. Know what / where the light is, right? And this is a little bit more complicated. So in the last image, I talked about how I really, really wanted a backlit sunset image, right? Obviously, I had to wait for a very specific time of day for that to happen. Like, you can't get an image of a sunset in the middle of the day. You're not going to get that orange glow because the sun only looks like that when it's near the horizon. So either we're getting up at sunup to walk the dog together, me lugging my camera around, which is not going to happen, or you wait for the sun to set. This is going to lead into, and it'll help you with taking images of animals that are black. But for now, I want to focus on the directionality of the light. Look at the difference between these two images, right? Like the one on the left is sort of like a coolish, like it's very cool. I'm going to say cool like 6 more times so that you get when an image has like greens and blues in it and no oranges. Photographers like to say it feels cool, like it feels like it's a cool day out. In that photo, the sun is behind clouds, right? And clouds are great. I know people think, oh, it's a cloudy day. Like, I don't want to bother my dog or my cat trying to take pictures outside on a cloudy. I don't want to go outside on a cloudy day. It's not going to look good. Clouds are amazing for taking pictures. Clouds are really, really great. So get outside on that cloudy day, get down on the ground, get in front of your pet, and take photos and you'll get something sort of like the one on the left here. Obviously, you're not using the same stuff I am, but we're going to get to that. Don't you worry. So the light here is all around, right? Because it's coming through the clouds, it's diffused, everything is nice and evenly lit. It's the same sort of light value, if you will. Like the light on the cat here on the cat's face is not at all different from the light on the stairs in the background or on the blurry rocks on the left side. It's all very, very soft, diffused through the clouds sunlight. The shot on the right is very different, right? The light is very directional. It's creating shadow because it's only on the left side of the cat, which is this cat's Merlin. All the animals in here, I remember most of their names. This is a neighborhood cat that lived in that same neighborhood that we used to live in. And this cat would come around every single day. It would come around and it would always be there right when I pulled up, which is great. Like, I'd pull up in my car and the cat would be there. So after a while, I started carrying the camera thinking, I'm going to get some good photos of this cat because this is a really cool looking cat. And I did, obviously. But the difference here is that, again, I knew in my head beforehand that I wanted a shot with nice even light. And I knew that, shots with good contrast that have good dynamic range, which I'll talk about more in the next slide, that have really good dynamic range are a little bit more interesting to me anyway. So I really, really wanted that difference between light and shadow. So the sun here, and we'll do an art class question and you can answer in the chat if you want. Where's the sun in this photo? And type it in the chat there if you want. I'll give you 2 seconds. 1, 2. The sun is coming from the top left, right? Because it's shining on this side of the animal. And on the other side, we've got nothing but shadow because there's no light coming from that direction, right? But you can still see it, right? Like, we still see the detail in the cat's fur. It's still lit in a way, even though the light isn't directional coming from that direction. It's only coming from the other direction. Which brings me to my next point. And this is the big one. I know that a lot of people have problems with this, but this is a 2-parter. Mind the background and how to photograph black animals, okay? To do that, you need to know where the light is. You need to know where the light is. 2 of these are using artificial light, right? 2 of these have a flash right on top of the camera. They're not pointing at the animal because remember what I said before, directional light is how you get those, the bad red eye or the green eye, if you will. The light's pointing up at the ceiling and behind me, right? In the 2 images on the left, there is a bright light source behind a black dog. Don't do this, okay? I wanted to show you this because I wanted to remind you, one, that it's okay to break the rules once you know how to and what you're doing. But two, there's a reason that we have certain rules in photography. And I'll explain this one a little bit more in depth. The difference between the variation between light and shadow and sort of the gradation, like that, the pathway from like the darkest to the brightest part of an image, and how we perceive that and how the camera perceives that is something that we call dynamic range. Okay. I want everyone to do this. Now, don't do it right now, obviously, but in the next couple of days, take some time, go outside when the sun is low, right? When the sun is low, and don't look at it. I'm not telling you to look at the sun, but look at an object in front of you with the sun behind you, right? Or with the sun behind it, behind the object. So have, hold up your phone, hold up a magazine or a book or anything, and have the sun directly behind you. Make sure that you can, see it off in your vision here, but hold the object right here. You'll still be able to see whatever the object is. If it's a magazine, you'll still be able to read the words that are on the page, right? And you'll still be able to see exactly how bright it is behind that object. You'll be able to see, if it's a sunset, you're not going to miss out on the beautiful reds, blues, and purples. You'll be able to see that. Our eyes are so much more powerful than cameras in this way. Cameras still have not caught up. They're trying, but they have not caught up. Thankfully, we have software and other tricks, to get us there, but they haven't caught up. So a camera can't perceive the difference between light and shadow the same way that your eyes can, which is why a lot of the times when you're taking pictures of, your black cat, your black dog, your black rabbit, your black rat, if there isn't a good light source behind you to light them, the camera's not going to catch it the same way that your eye does. So you really have to be aware of, where is the light coming from, right? Is it on the subject that I want to get a photo of, my dog, cat, rat, or rabbit? I'm going to include all the animals that I've ever had, but there are other black ones out there too. And how bright is it behind them? Because cameras do this nifty thing now, especially because I know a lot of you are using I'm assuming a lot of you are using smartphones to do this. But when you look through your camera app on a smartphone, the phone is deciding what you want to see in the photo, right? The phone is deciding. You're not deciding, the phone is deciding, because most of the settings are automatic. So it'll take the software in the phone that's, real time, will in its little software brain think, okay, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a street scene. There's people kind of far away. There's clouds. There's sun up here behind them. I'm going to assume, like, the phone's going to assume that you want to see the foreground animal, the foreground object, but it doesn't have the power to get like good lighting for both, right? Some of you, I'm sure, have noticed that when you have an animal or you have a subject that's darker than what's behind it, so you'll tap on the phone right on top of the subject, right? Because it'll focus on that thing and it'll adjust its brightness so that it becomes bright enough to see. What happens when you touch that, when you do that? As soon as the subject in front becomes brighter, if the scenery behind it is bright as well, that's going to get that much brighter too. And it gets blown out, right? That's why you see so many photos of, people, animals, all kinds of objects with bright white sky behind them. We know the sky isn't white. The sky is blue. It's only white on like a cloudy day. So don't try to avoid taking pictures of your black animal with bright light sources behind them. That said, if you have a different light source, if you have some other light source like a flash, or even a lamp, like a powerful lamp, LED lights are great for this because they don't get hot, right? And they're constant, they're not flashes, so it's a little bit less bothersome for your animal. But if you have something like that you can shine, that'll give you a much better image of your dark colored animal. You can also solve this with software. There are a number of mobile editing programs that are really good at editing images. My favorite is called Snapseed. It has a ton of tools, almost all of the tools that you'll find in a lot of professional editing software. And I highly recommend you search, and I'll put that in the chat so that you can remember how it's spelled and all that. Snapseed. Search for that, download it, play with it. right? Play with it, really, really get to know all the settings, what everything does. Like pick a random photo of on your phone and just start moving sliders around. Train your eye to see what all the settings do and all the things do. And then you can figure out how to affect photos to make them look exactly the way that you want. Because again, the camera on your phone is making most of the decisions because it's automatic. But if you take a little bit of time afterwards to edit that same photo in editing software, you get to make more of the decisions and you can have it look the way that you want it to look. There's another part of, I hope, and hopefully that answers your photographing black animals question. If there's more, like if there's other specific situations that you've encountered with that, please let me know in the chat and I'll be happy to answer that. But in general, make sure that the bright light, wherever, whatever it is, if it's the sun, right? If it's, you know, the lights in your kitchen, if it's the light coming in through the door, make sure that's behind you. The difference between these three photos here, the bottom or the top one on the left, we're very, very close to a bright light source, right? Look, you can see the white sky through the security door there. I've got a flash on the camera so we can see him. That's what the flash is doing. The bottom left photo is farther away. So you could probably get away with taking a photo like this with your phone and editing it on editing software. Grab the, most of them will have a slider that says either blacks or shadows. Grab that and move that up and it'll bring up only the dark objects in the image and you'll be able to see your dark animal a little bit easier. But because we're farther away from the bright light source, it's it's going to be much easier for your camera to know, this is what I want to look at. This is what I have to expose. And it's not going to hunt as much. It's not going to hunt is what I'm just throwing photography terms at you. You're getting all kinds of education here. I'm throwing these terms at you. Hunt is what we call when the automatic settings on your camera try to figure out what it's doing and it starts to take a little bit too long. You're like, wow, why isn't it doing what it's supposed to do? The camera's hunting. It's trying to figure out what it is that you want to see and how it can, you know, execute that. The photo on the right is thank you, Shelly, likes my photography Facebook page. The photo on the right is the opposite. The door is behind me. Or no, sorry. The door here is on the left, right? So the light is coming in through the left. You can kind of see it, how it's a little bit brighter on his beard there and on the, I'll just move my mouse. I'll move my mouse. Obviously, you guys can see that. Right here on his leg and right here are a little bit brighter, not just because they're gray and silvery, because a little bit more light's coming in there because it's coming through the security door. It's also bouncing off of the brown floor, right? Which is how we get this sort of discoloration. You can see the color is very, very different here than it is here. Those are also settings that you'll find in different editing software. Most of them, the vast majority of them, even cell phone ones, I'm pretty sure are going to call that white balance. Some will call it color temperature, right? So if you want a black object to look black, play with those color adjustments until it looks black to your eye. Any other questions about photographing black animals? Because I know this is a huge issue. So if you do have them, please, please, please ask, and I'll try and answer it as best as I can. By that I mean I'll have an answer. I always have an answer. Nobody? I'm gonna move on. This is your last chance. Okay, I'm moving on. If I can get the window to do what it's supposed to do. There we go. I said this earlier. Know your pet's limit. This is very, very important. Don't do like marathon photo sessions or picture shoots with your cell phone with your dog or cat or a rabbit or a rat. They're going to get bored. They're going to get antsy. But beyond that, there are some pets who don't want to sit still when they're away from you, right? I know a lot of people have problems with that. You have your dog sit, or you get your cat to be in one spot. You walk away. They want to be next to you. So they come in and they get way too close and then you can't take the picture, right? So know their limit, know what they can do. If that's the case for you and you have an animal that's not going to sit still unless you're nearby or someone they know or love is nearby, keep them nearby, right? The great thing about having that editing software that I just talked about, even if it's just a simple editing software on your phone, most phones have this built in, is you can crop. I don't remember this dog's name, even though I photographed him very, very recently. Very sweet dog. Could not sit still, would not sit still if mom wasn't right there. So what did I do? I had to just say, look, get him up on the block, stay close by. And if he moves, get him back up there. But hopefully that'll help him want to sit still. Because every time she'd have him sit down there, she'd come and walk behind me to try and get his attention. It's taquito. Thank you, Danae. Taquito. Yes, because that's how I said it to get his attention. Come here, taquito. Yes, that it's so important to make sure that they're comfortable in the setting that they're in. Really, really prioritize that over everything else, right? If they're not comfortable, you're not going to get the pictures you want. You're just not. The same thing goes for people, actually. It's also true of people. But especially for your pets, it's going to be so much harder to get a photo that you like if they're not comfortable. And know their comfort zone. Know what they're comfortable with. If your dog is the kind of dog that doesn't want a camera right up in its face, don't do that. Do it from farther away. And in your editing software later on, crop in closer, right? I don't recommend zooming in too close with cell phone cameras. It tends to not be that good. Plus, the farther that you zoom in, and a lot of you will know this, if you have your phone on you, I want you to take it out and try this right now. Open your phone, your photo. Wow, camera is the word I'm looking for. Open your camera app and zoom in as far as you can. And I want you to move the phone just a little bit, like almost imperceptible movement. And you'll notice that whatever you're looking at changes dramatically, right? Like you'll move it just a little bit and suddenly it looks like you're looking at a completely different part of the room. Because when you zoom in, you're looking at a very, very small view that's far away. So any change in how this is going to dramatically change what you're looking at. So don't zoom in from far away on your cell phone. Take the photo from far away, from way zoomed out, crop in later on. Obviously, there's a limit here because cell phones don't have super high resolution camera sensors in them. They've gotten much better, much better. But some of you may have tried this already, or may have done this with other photos. But if you crop in too close, you'll notice that it starts to look all grainy or kind of messed up, and the quality just kind of goes right out the window. So there's a give and a take there. There's an in-between sweet spot. I want to say don't take photos with your cell phone of something that's like that far away, so it's like that small in the frame, so you have to crop in like that, right? That's a little bit too much. But split the difference. Like instead of right here where you're nice and close, you can get back a little bit, crop in like that, and it'll still look good. Much better than zooming in. Much better than zooming in. I'm gonna go, while I'm on the subject of that, I'm gonna go off we're going off on tangents now. Oh God, stop me. This is a very, very simple tip that will help you take better cell phone pictures in general, but especially better photos of your pets. I see this all the time when people are taking photos. They hold their phone like this with the arms all out. You don't have a lot of support. Like, right? It would be if somebody came by and like bumped me, the camera would move. And then if I'm zoomed in, like I just mentioned, whatever I'm looking at is going to change dramatically. That's how you get a lot of those photos that you take and you're like, man, this doesn't look quite sharp to me, right? And you know that I have this brand new phone, this brand new camera. Why aren't the photos sharp? If this is unstable, any kind of movement, even a small movement, like something almost imperceptible, is going to have an effect on the image that you take, right? The speed of the shutter on a camera phone isn't super duper quick so that it's going to, compensate for the motion that you make if it's a little bit of motion. So you're going to get those streaks or like weird fuzziness like that. So give yourself a little bit more support. When you're holding your cell phone to take a photo, bring your arms in. If I can get past that cord, geez. Bring your arms in. And suddenly you are a little bit more like a tripod. You have a lot more stability. I'll stand so you can see it here. Bring them in against your chest. You have a lot more stability like this, and it's going to be a lot harder to shake the phone accidentally when you're holding it like that. So again, don't do this. Do this. Bring them in. Hold them against you. Make yourself into a human tripod. All right, moving along. This is the page that I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for. Know the equipment that you're using. Know its limits, much like knowing your pet's limits, but also know that it doesn't have to be crazy expensive to take pictures that you'll like. All of these are taken on my cell phone. All of them. Like none of these are a great camera. And you can see that in some ways, like in the picture of the cat here on the bottom left. I didn't edit it. The color's not quite perfect, but she's sharp in focus. And it's a cool picture. I'm down on her level. It's really, really cool. the top left one, like with the shadow like that, there's something neat was happening. It's well lit, right? The lighting is so important in photography in general, but especially when you're taking photographs on your cell phone, because like I said, the sensors in these aren't super strong. They're not that great. So you need to help them out as much as you can. Try and take photos in great light the vast majority of the time, and you'll get results like this. All of these are taken during the day. The latest one is probably the photos of the rabbits, and I don't think that's a night mode shot. I'm pretty sure there's actual daylight coming in. But yeah, these are all cell phone pictures, guys. So like you can do it with your cell phone. Remember what I said about the direction of the light? In the top right photo of Argo here, you've got the lights, the sun setting over my camera right shoulder, and all the light is on him. So he's nice and beautifully lit. If I took that from the other direction, it would be a lot harder to get that clear and that crisp of an image of him. So always remember where the light is coming from is queen. I usually say king, but I'm gonna say queen today. Is queen when you're taking photos. Know where the light's coming from. Know it. Please, please, please. But yeah, get out there, grab your cell phone, take a ton of photos, guys. Like, please do. Please, please, please. Last, but certainly not least, have fun. Photos are fun. Photos are so much fun. Memories preserved is a great thing, right? Get goofy with it. Like, have a little bit of fun. The photo on the left, whenever Lindsay would travel for business or go out of town or anything like that, I would send her photos of our animals to know that I'm keeping them alive. So I set up my tripod in the self timer, and I picked up the dog and the cat, and I got that photo there on the right. It just kind of worked out. Like I didn't direct the cat to look that way and look mad, and I didn't tell the dog to look worried. Like, this is real. These are all real emotions. But this is one of my favorite photos of me and the dog and the cat, because I just love what's happening here. And the one on the right is from a Halloween a few years back, when Lindsay was Rey from the new Star Wars movies, and we got this cute little Chewbacca costume from Argo. And we have all these we have the photos of the three of us where we look super serious, and I edited in like an actual lightsaber for her that looks really, really cool. And then I just started taking pictures of the two of them, and she kneeled down, and he looks up at her in this way like, why are you doing this to me? And she looked right back at him at just the right moment. And it's one of my absolute favorite photos of the two of them, because it perfectly encompasses pretty much how most animals feel when you're trying to take a photo of them. That's what I've got for you guys. That's it. That's all the pictures. You can follow me. You can check out my website, richshoots.com. Follow me on social media. My Instagram is Rich Soublet Photography. It was, hopefully you've learned something today. If you haven't, give me a call. I'll be happy to spend a little bit more, or I'll give you a call. I didn't give you my phone number. Send me a message, send me an email. I'm happy to spend a little bit more time answering more specific questions. I see there are some in the Q&A right now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to answer those. When you take the pics, their eyes get lost. You have a black lab. Yeah, right. So this is where that light comes in. Like, make sure you have good direct, not directional, that you have good soft light close to you. It can be, okay, here we go. So to offset, right, the black eyes from the black fur of your black lab, you're gonna want your light source to be a little bit more directional, and not like a little bit more straight on, not so much off to the side or like over your shoulder, or too high or too low out of frame. You're going to want your light source to be, I would say, if their dog is here, have your light source right about here, so that you can get some light into the eyes. It should be kind of low, right? You don't want it close to their head, because obviously most dogs will get annoyed by that. But if it's a little bit low, you'll get light into the eyes, and you'll get a little bit of that reflection, like a little bit of the coloring, a little bit of the green or the red, and it'll light up their eyes a little bit more than having it just be jet black and having black on black. You can also, in those same editing programs, especially Snapseed, you can select a specific area and just brighten that part of the image. I would say a great way to do it would be to lower the contrast, right? Because if you have high contrast, shadows are going to look really, really deep, and you're going to lose detail in them. Lower the contrast so the black starts to look a little bit like a little bit of a tinge of gray, And what I recommend, because this is the way that I edit photos too, is I'll go way too far. Like I'll make it look ridiculous and then I'll dial it back until like that looks good. So I want you to try that. Lower the contrast to the point where you're like, that looks terrible. And then bring it back until you think, okay, I like the way that looks. You'll probably have like not jet black fur. It'll be like a little bit more towards a little bit of a grayish, not a lot, not enough to make it not look black, but it will be less contrasty and you'll be able to see the difference more between the eyes and the fur. What about trying to do a selfie with my dog? Oh, they're gonna look funky. Getting close to an animal and getting a selfie is really, really tough. Patience really comes into play here, right? And preparation. Have the phone and just wait a little bit. Get them close to you. Like if you're on the couch or something like that, practice like this. Get them close to you on the couch, let them sit there for a little while and just sort of sneakily bring up the phone like this. If their like attention is off somewhere else and they're not looking at the phone, what I do is I'll tap the back of it like this, and I'll use my other hand and like the little shutter button on the right to actually take the picture. Tap it like this so it makes noise, and then I'll have them look at it. That helps. But if you're not a selfie person, I can teach you I'll teach you very quick, even though you're a human, not an animal, how to take better selfies of yourself. You'll notice that the camera here, most laptop and Zoom camera crops and views are slightly below the person. There's an artistic point behind doing that. A lot of people don't like that angle. It's like, oh, I can see my chins and all this stuff. Here's what I want you to do the next time you're taking a selfie of yourself. I want you to, get good posture if you're sitting or standing, really, really good posture. Bring your chin down and just push your forehead forward a little bit. See the difference in my jawline when I do that, right? If I'm relaxed or if I'm laughing, ha ha ha, then I have like, rah, then I have Jabba the Hutt jaw. But if you're pushed forward a little bit, even if you laugh while you're doing this, it's going to be way, way, way less big. So you'll have much more flattering selfies if you just push your head forward a little bit. You don't go crazy like, I'm a giraffe, but push it out just a little bit and they'll have a little bit more definition here. Sometimes with animals, especially with dogs, you're just going to have to hug them into it and take a bunch, let them react however they want, and be meticulous about picking through them later on. You'll find something in there that you like. I always do when I do that. I'll keep going. How do you get and keep the attention of a blind dog when sounds, food don't work? That is an excellent question. I haven't run into that problem myself. The blind dogs that I've photographed have usually been pretty good about responding to snaps or keys or claps or food. If you have an animal that doesn't respond to any of that, your best bet is to take a little bit of preparation, take a little bit of patience, and get mobile, like move around. I know dogs tend to be really, really quick. They turn their heads. They'll find any reason to look anywhere but at the camera. But if they start to move this way, you move that way, right? It's going to compromise the background, obviously, a little bit. So try to be somewhere where there's nice, even lighting, even soft lighting. On a cloudy day is great for this. And just be mobile. You're going to have to be fast because it is really tough to keep a blind dog's attention. I would say what you can do is get really, really close, like as close as I am to the computer here, and physically touch them. Like give head scratches, right? Chin scratches, all that stuff, so that they know that you're there. And then get your phone ready, right? Keep your hand out of the frame, like you can move down sort to their belly, give scratches there, and then take the photos. And again, take a ton because a blind dog is going to look whichever way they're going to look. If it's one that does respond a little bit to sound, you can give the belly scratches so they sit still here, tap the back of your phone so they're wondering where that sound is coming from. Obviously, don't do this. Only move if they're moving, but don't wave your phone around and expect to get a great photo. That's not going to happen. But yeah, touching them is a good way too. Be close enough to touch them, zoom way out, have a wide angle, and you can capture them that way. Can you use a squeaker? Yes. Yeah, when I say something that they love, I mean anything that makes a sound. Like toys are great. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Hold it right above your lens. Hold it right here and squeak. So they're looking very, very, they're never gonna look directly into the lens. That's not true. Sometimes they will. But if you're squeaking something that's away from here, they're not gonna look right there. So get it as close as you can, and that'll help you out. That's a great question, though. Yeah, squeakers are good. Keys are great. I use keys because the jingle jangle sound is a really great attention getter. And a ball or a toy or something that they love, if it's a seeing dog, is really, really helpful. So they're under tips for constantly moving puppy. Wait till they're 11 months old. No, I'm kidding. For a constantly moving puppy, it's the same thing as a blind dog whose attention is hard to get. Be fast, right? If you're using a traditional camera that has a really, really fast shutter, it'll make that a lot easier. If you're using your phone, hold down the button, hold it down and let it just fly. Do I like the portrait program on iPhones? It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. I don't use an iPhone. I'm using a Google Pixel, and it has a portrait mode on here. That's okay. It's okay. Like with most artificial adjustments for photos, I feel like less is more, right? And what portrait mode is trying to do is to recreate something that we call depth of field, right? Like if you're looking at me right now, of course you are. You're trapped on this webinar. There's good depth of field here, which means I'm in focus and the background is blurry, right? That's because I'm using an actual real camera to do this. Regular cameras, iPhone cameras don't have this naturally because the lens that they're using doesn't have much distance from the lens to the sensor because they're right on top of it, right? So it can't create depth of field like this. So the portrait mode is a good way to fake it, but I would say use that with a very, very light touch and it'll look really good. Any other questions, guys?
Rich, this is awesome. I'm applauding. You can't see me, but I'm applauding for you. That was really, really great. Thank you so much. I was over here taking a lot of notes. So, yeah,
it's my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like you got to all the questions, so that's awesome. I just want to make sure everybody knows that we did record this. One came in as I was talking. Oh, there's just a thank you.
Nope, it's just a thank you. You're welcome. So welcome.
We did record the webinar, so if there's anything you missed or anything like that, please just reach out to me. My email address is admin, ADMIN, @space4pets.org. And we will let you know of any more upcoming educational webinars. We have them each month, so you'll all get a notice regarding those. And just thank you again so much, Rich, and we'll talk to everybody later. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks. Bye.